What's going on, YouTube? So it's no secret that Volkswagen has really been stepping up their game recently, and the best evidence yet is this new Tiguan. That's why we were extremely excited to live with this new model for the past week, to see if it can truly go against key competitors like the RAV4. So, after a week with this product, did it prove that you need to consider putting this in your driveway? Well, let's go ahead and find out. Let's get things started here with a quick spec dump. So under the hood for 2026, there is going to be two different powertrain options. We will be driving the upcoming more powerful version very soon, but for now we've got the 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine making 201 horsepower. You have an 8-speed automatic transmission, and combined fuel economy with all-wheel drive is 25 mpg.
Now, the base price for the Tiguan is about $30,000, and if you're looking to buy one or any new vehicle, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes to get the best price. Now, this, of course, is a real-world 7-day review, so we have quite a few impressions to share. We'll also be getting things like our sound level reading and discussing our real-world fuel economy after living with it this week.
Well, let's go ahead and close up the hood so we can take a look at this exterior design, and especially the surprisingly luxurious interior. So getting started here with the exterior design, one of the things we like to do when we have these vehicles on loan is show them to as many people as possible and get different types of feedback. Well, this week, everybody, including both Mason and I and Josh, thought this is a pretty handsome looking vehicle. It certainly rides the nice line between looking a bit sporty and also classy inside of this compact SUV segment. Now, in terms of what you get up here, as you can see, we have the top version, the SEL R line, which means we have the aggressive fascia through here with the gloss black accents that goes all the way through here. A little bit of silver accenting down there at the bottom. But really a main element of this vehicle is the focus on lighting. They've done a lot with this, especially when you choose the loaded example. That's going to get you the full shebang. Now, standard on all models is LED headlights, but choosing this top example throws in a light bar across the front, illuminated logo for the Volkswagen, and you get the upgraded LED headlight unit. So this, guys, is basically a luxury car headlight unit. They might have borrowed it straight from Audi because it's got animations. It also has cornering abilities, and these things are super bright, so they really light up the night super well. We will be covering that in an upcoming night review, so make sure you stay tuned for that. As we move around to the back, you'll see all the latest modern Volkswagen elements present here.
Yeah, I think it's overall a very classy design. Honestly, a lot classier than some of the rivals that you see just absolutely everywhere. Now, as far as some design touches, we have a spoiler, we have a wiper, and then really lighting is going to be the key element for this new Tiguan. That includes here in the back. So we have a very premium LED taillight unit, and that's going to be on all models. That includes your LED brake light, your LED amber turn signal indicator, and you also have an LED reverse light. So every single element in here is LED. It also has animations at nighttime. And as we drop down to the lower fascia, no exposed exhaust outlets, and your tow rating comes in at 1,500 pounds for front-wheel drive or 1,800 pounds if you choose all-wheel drive.
Next up, we have our wheels. Those begin at 17-inch alloys, and as you move through the trims, they escalate in size quite a bit. When you get up here to this SEL version, you get a 20-inch contrast alloy. So that is very large for the segment. It's about an inch larger than what you typically see as the top wheel size, and I think these look absolutely fantastic. We also have a little bit of gloss black accenting around the wheel arches, but most of the lower part of the body is going to be body color. And then as far as our mirrors are concerned, we've got all the features you're going to expect in this segment. So you have standard heating and standard blind spot monitoring with power folding added at the top trim level.
Now at the side, this vehicle comes in at 184.4 inches in overall length, and we have quite a few cool design touches. For one, we have this piece of chrome that kind of sweeps into the rear. We also have these silver roof rails up here at the top that are a little bit raised off of the roof. And speaking of the roof, you can get a two-tone roof option on certain versions of this Tiguan to really elevate your style on this model. Now when it comes to your safety systems, I'm also very happy to tell you that Volkswagen doesn't mess around. You get all of them as standard equipment, even adaptive cruise control with their travel assist function. We found that to work very well this week, and for 2026 they have revised it to make it work a little bit better. But there's a lot to talk about when it comes to how much luxury you have on the inside and our impressions after living with it. But first, if you're new here, we're brothers and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We started young, and since then we have reviewed over 2,000 vehicles at every price point.
No matter what you're looking for, from humble to high-end, we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family.
Let's learn a lot and have some fun with all the latest cars. All right, now let's move on to the interior. First, we'll take a look at the key fob. It's surprisingly very nice for a mainstream brand. It has a super solid feel to it. You've got standard, smart, entry, and you also get remote start on all but the base S trim. Now, getting inside the vehicle, you're just gonna grab behind the handle here. That will unlock the door, and the mirrors will also fold outward. And then, peeking inside of this interior, we really had great first impressions of this product when we drove it in Montana, and after living with it, this interior really does wow everybody who gets inside of it. Before we get into the individual details of the cabin, let's start with the seats. So you're going to start with a cloth seat on your lowest end trim. However, when you get to this top trim, this is where you get real leather. You've got a variety of color choices. We have a really rich looking brown and black two-tone theme with a white color contrast piping and stitching. This really stands out as being super luxurious with this quilting down the center. Things in this segment typically don't have seats that are this nice and comfortable. There's also some bonus features as well. So when you get the top trim, you get 12 ways of adjustment, which is a little bit extra from the other versions. You get memory seats on the driver's side and the passenger side. And then you also get this button right here, which is a massage function. This isn't just a kind of basic massage either. It's actually a really good massage. It's really up there with luxury vehicles in terms of the number of settings you have and how much it can dig into you. So if you want a massaging seat, this is actually a really good one. But let's go ahead and climb inside and get into some other details. First up, let's look at the other cabin materials. So over here on the door trim, we've got a leatherette with a stitching detail, more of the brown leatherette and white piping through the center of the door trim, and a soft touch plastic with stitching details up here. As we move to the upper dash, this is all padded plastic, which is pretty nice with the stitching detail. This right here I want to talk about. This has real American walnut trim. So this is an open pore wood. Very uncommon to see something this nice in a compact mainstream SUV, and it really sets off the cabin, in addition to the ambient lighting, which kind of runs through here and all through the cabin being very advanced. More of the leatherette through there and along our console for our knees rest against. Everything fits together super solidly as we expect from a Volkswagen product. And we'll fire it up with the push button start. Now that's all fired up, let's dig in with some details, starting with the gauge cluster. We have a 10.25 inch full digital cluster that is standard equipment on all models, and this is reconfigurable with some different designs. You can just press the view button on the steering wheel and you'll see it run through some different configurations, including a navigation view. Up top though, one of the things that's very surprising to see is a head-up display. Now there are some other offerings in this segment that have a HUD, but I can't think of any that offer it on a trim below the fully loaded model. This one you can actually go down a trim and you'll still have the head-up display. Now as we pull back to the steering wheel, we've got a nice Volkswagen design here, flat bottom, little R logo right there. It's going to be manual tilt and telescoping, and you do have steering wheel heating. We also have rain sensing wipers. And then let's take a look at interior storage. So over here, we've got our console. Open this up. By the way, this is adjustable, so you can slide it forward and back. You'll find some donuts inside. That's because here at Car Confections, the donut is our logo, and we like to test that out and check the volume. Today, inside of here, we have 14 donuts, which is pretty good, definitely above the dozen donuts required to pass the test. Just be aware that not all of this is fully covered, so depending on where you adjust this, some of that stuff can actually slide forward and be visible, so just keep that in mind. Also, this is where your wireless phone charging pad is, so you kind of just slide your phone in and clip it. That's standard equipment on every single trim level. Then you got your two cup holders right here, and a little slot no pass-through storage or anything like that, which maybe is a little bit of a missed opportunity considering that the shifter is up here out of the way. So this is an electronic style. You might have seen this on some recent VWs. You just twist up for drive, down for reverse. And when you go into reverse, here's our 360-degree camera system. This is standard on just the SEL R line. As you can see, you got both different types of views you can switch between. The resolution is a little grainy, but not too bad. You get a traditional backup camera with standard parking sensors for the other trims. This version also comes with a park assist if you need some help parking. And just press that P there for park. You also have an electronic parking brake. And now that we're in this region, this would be a good time to discuss this central knob. You might have thought this actually was the shifter at first, but this is a multi-function knob. First of all, it's kind of like a little watch. When you kind of get near it, it senses your approach, and this allows you to, of course, control the volume for the audio system, but you can also press down on it, and then that allows you to control your different ambient lighting zones, or swipe over on it, and then you can control your different drive modes. So it's definitely a nice touch. It seems very premium for this segment, and allows you to still have that physical volume knob, since I know a lot of people were missing that in some recent Volkswagens. Speaking of, this SEL R line comes with the higher-end Harman Kardon sound system, and we'll go ahead and give that a sample right now. Definitely, we give this a thumbs up. In terms of high-end audio systems in this segment, they can vary in quality. This is one of the better ones. It fills up the cabin quite nicely. All right, so let's kind of move on up into this region of the big old display. Before we get into the details of that, we'll talk about this kind of setup right below it. Well, you do have a volume slider, like I was mentioning earlier, but you can always just use the volume knob, and then these sliders are to control the climate controls. Standard is a dual-zone automatic climate control system. This top trim actually has a 3-zone automatic climate control system, and you can just tap or slide along this control through there, or you can press the Clima button there to really get into some additional details. And let's talk about this display. So as you can see, this is an absolutely massive display. It's a 15-inch unit. I believe that is the largest, or one of the very largest in the entire class to choose from. Actually, standard on the Tiguan now is a 12.9-inch display, so that's actually bigger than many of the rivals' top screen size to start with. Now this has MIB4, the latest Volkswagen software, and in the past, there has been some criticism for the overall performance of this system, but we're happy to report that this week we really didn't have any trouble with this system. It booted up quickly, it responded to everything we needed, it also paired to our phones really nicely and ran wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay flawlessly. Just some of the menu structure, I guess, is a little bit complicated at times, so keep that in mind, but once you get used to it, I don't think it'll be a problem for you. I also didn't mention earlier the little seat controls down here with the climate. Heated seats are standard equipment on all models. Ventilated seats are on the top trim. As we rise above, we have an auto-dimming mirror with a frameless design for your top examples. And then if you swipe back on that little touch sensor, that will bring back the sunshade for the panoramic sunroof. This is included on the SE R-Line Black and also this fully loaded model as standard equipment, and the front panel does open up.
And let's talk about the rear seat area of the Tiguan. Now, once more, when we showed this to our friends and family for the past week, I think everyone was very impressed with how much space you actually have here in the rear. And that's because it's up about 1.5 inches in terms of legroom over the previous generation. So we're sitting at over 40 inches of legroom, 40.2 inches of legroom, and 38.4 inches of headroom. That means that this is one of the largest in the segment that you can get. It's not quite as big as something like a Honda CR-V, but it is very close to being one of the largest. Now, Of course, we brought along the official Car Confections ruler. The reason we do that is so we can get a realistic knee room figure. Now, the seat is adjusted to Drew, who is 5'8", I am 5'9", and we are sitting at over 10 inches of knee room. That is fantastic for this segment. Also, my feet can slide up underneath of the seats. These seats we have found to be very comfortable here in the back. The only thing I'm going to complain about is the fact that these rear seats do not recline, so they're just kind of fixed position. We have a fold-down armrest with 2 cup holders inside, and then as far as features, every Tiguan will come standard with rear vents. Since we have the fully loaded example, that means we have our own climate zone back here. And since we have the fully loaded example, we additionally have heated back seats. That's increasingly becoming rare for this segment as well. We additionally have 2 USB-C ports down below. And then looking at the door trim, this is really the only part that's a little cheaper as compared to the front. We have a hard touch upper part all through there. However, we still have the ambient lighting and the door trim, leatherette all through the center section, Harman Kardon branded speaker grills, and a ton of door storage. So I think you'll be pretty pleasantly surprised with overall how this rear seat feels. Now walking up to the tailgate, a power tailgate is included on SE trims, and above, if you choose the top model, you get the hands-free function as well. And then let's discuss overall cargo capacity. Now, in our previous Tiguan reviews, we didn't have the official number, and unfortunately, we still don't have the official number. We reached out to a Volkswagen representative, and they are still working on getting those figures finalized for the U.S. version, so I can't tell you an official number. However, Car and Driver did independently test it, and it's sitting at about 38 cubic feet of space behind the second row of seats, and with those seats folded down, 70 cubic feet. Those are good numbers, and I can confirm, based on my professional opinion, that seems pretty accurate. Now, a couple things to point out. This new Tiguan does not have a third row as compared to the previous generation model. And if you're curious as to how it might compare in other areas to the competition other than cargo capacity, you can find that at carconfections.com/vehicle rankings. We've gone through the numerous compact SUVs on the market for sale, and we've ranked all of them in individual categories that matter a lot to compact SUV shoppers, like interior technology, luxury features, powertrain choices, value included. So if you want to make an informed buying decision, we definitely encourage you to utilize our tools at carconfections.com/vehicle rankings. Now, coming back to this model, the seats fold 60-40 split, and I'm happy to report that they do have these handles right here in the cargo area to actually go ahead and fold those seats down. As you can see, that's pretty easy. Give that one a little bit of a nudge, and it will fold completely flat with the floor. Let's get our cargo length, width, and height figures as well. So behind the driver's seat to the rear of the cargo area, we're sitting at 74 inches of overall length. From behind the second row of seats, we're looking at about 36 inches of length. And then overall opening is coming in at 42 inches wide. And then height, we do have the cargo cover installed, but I'm going to do my best to estimate here for you. That's going to be sitting right at about 30 inches. Now overall, the load and height comes in also right at that 30-inch mark. And then underneath of the floor, I think a lot of you guys will be happy to know that you will have a spare tire. Well guys, here we are behind the wheel of the Volkswagen Tiguan. In this test drive, we're going to be discussing quite a lot, as you can see on the screen right now. We'll also be getting things like our official Kentucky sound level reading and discussing our real-world fuel economy after living with it this week. But first, we've got to start with that hard acceleration.
All right. There's 60 miles per hour with the Tiguan. So like we talked about at the spec dump, this vehicle comes standard with a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. We have 201 horsepower and 221 pound-feet of torque. Both of those are improvements from the previous generation if you happen to own one or have ever driven one before. And as far as how that compares to the competition, that's pretty good. This is a standard engine option, so there's definitely some things in the segment that have lower amounts of power. There are also some that have a little bit higher amounts, so it's pretty much in the middle, but I would say that, after you get past a little initial turbo lag, this feels a little spiffier than the competition if they're naturally aspirated, just because you have some low end torque.
Yeah, the 221 pound-feet of torque is pretty good for this segment, you know, aside from the hybrid offerings, which, by the way, this vehicle is not offering a hybrid. That is, you know, kind of a big deal. I think that Volkswagen should really get on offering a hybrid for this model. However, one of the really nice additions for the 2026 model year is, of course, the turbo model. So they don't have a hybrid, but they have the turbo, and the turbo is basically going to take the Audi Q5's powertrain and throw it in this nice package as well. It's going to give you a lot more power. It's a 268 horsepower 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder, 258 pound-feet of torque. So that's going to be a hefty increase in power and torque, and we look forward to driving that.
I think certainly another important consideration is the overall refinement of the engine as well. Typically things in this class can be a little harsh sounding as they strain. This vehicle does maintain its composure even when you go full throttle. It has a quite quiet overall sound to it, and it is pretty refined. So I think in that regard, you can tell you have that kind of German engineering. You know, they've been building these 2-liter turbo 4-cylinders for a long time, and they use them in a lot of different products, things that cost more than this as well. So that refinement does make its way into the Tiguan. Now, as far as the transmission is concerned, there's an 8-speed automatic for all models. It's a nice and smooth transmission. You don't have to wait too long when you put your foot down to get kicked down and get you right into the power band. And just everyday driving, again, it is good and smooth.
Yeah, and most of its rivals are having, you know, a CVT. So if you like the traditional automatic, I think that's a big benefit. As far as how power is routed to the ground, front-wheel drive is standard on most of your trim levels. All-wheel drive is standard on your upper-end examples, and you can option on to the lower-end models. And now that we're just kind of cruising down the highway, I think it's a great time to talk about ride quality. So after living with it for a full week, we've driven it hundreds of miles. We've driven it over all types of road surfaces, and we have a good feel for the ride quality. Initially, when we drove this car back in Montana, we thought it didn't have the best ride quality. I will say that that is pretty much confirmed after living with it this week. Those big 20-inch wheels on the outside do mean that you're going to have not the best ride. That's not to say it's bad, though. I think a lot of people will be perfectly fine with the ride quality that you get in here. It's just you notice a little bit more intrusion as you go over bridge abutments and bumps in the road with this Tiguan than you would in a lot of the competition, probably because they have smaller wheels and also kind of focus a little bit more on the comfort side of things. This vehicle has a little bit of a sportier nature than a lot of the other options. All right, we're speeding up to 55 miles per hour so we can get our sound level reading. I'm going to toggle us to fan speed 1 and see how quiet the Tiguan is. 55.6 decibels is what we have settled in at. And we don't have to sit here and guess how it compares to other compact SUVs. We can find that at carconfections.com/sound level readings, where we tested all of this vehicle's competition. Now, that's not quite the quietest reading in the segment. That being said, it is definitely on the quieter end. There's just a few options that are a little bit quieter than this Tiguan. It's certainly going to be better than things like the RAV4, the Honda CR-V when it comes to a sound level reading. It is a quiet cabin, that's for sure, and we noticed that this week. What's our fuel economy, you may wonder? Well, the EPA number is going to be sitting at 22, 30, 25 mpg combined. The front-wheel drive version is actually quite a bit up. That's 28 combined, so that's something to consider. And what's our real-world fuel economy after living with it this week? Well, guess what? Right on the money. 25.0 mpg is what we experienced across, I believe it was over 200 miles, 209 miles of driving. That was mixed city and highway driving in that 209 miles. So I would expect that you get right at that EPA estimate. Of course, there is not a hybrid, so that's a little disappointing, but 25 mpg is not horrible, and you will get that EPA number.
Now, in regard to the driving dynamics, Mason kind of mentioned it earlier, but you have a little bit of German athleticism. It's not hardcore or anything like that, but I definitely think compared to the average compact SUV, this is a little bit sportier, a little bit tighter in terms of the chassis, and the steering has a good response to it.
And let's get into our slam dunk and airball for the Tiguan. Drew, kick us off with the slam dunk, our favorite element.
The slam dunk has got to be the value. It's really pretty insane on this model. Really across the whole trim structure, you get a lot of features for the money. Even when we're talking about this top-end version, though, the price is less than even some of the vehicles that you really associate with value, like the Hyundai Tucson. Yeah. That's hilarious. And the Kia Sportage. Both of those actually cost more than this fully loaded. So the value is pretty insane with this, and we're certainly impressed by that and the luxury.
Yeah. On the airball side, really the only thing that we could think of this week after living with it was the fact that the warranty is not very good for a mainstream vehicle at 4-year, 50,000-mile basic and powertrain, and Volkswagen's reliability is certainly on the lower end, so that would certainly add to some peace of mind to have a longer warranty like the Koreans do. A 10-year powertrain warranty, I think, would do wonders for this vehicle to give buyers peace of mind if you're switching from something like a RAV4 or CR-V. And do we like it better, the same, or worse after living with it this week? Well, I have to say, we were very impressed with this car when we drove it originally in Montana, and I was expecting to go into it this week and say, what's the catch? What is the thing that really bothers me about this car? And after driving it around for several hundred miles and living with the vehicle, I really have to say there is almost no catch besides for that airball that I just mentioned with the less than average warranty and, lower than average reliability rankings. This vehicle really packs in a ton of value for the money, especially, it really feels like a luxury car inside of this cabin. I think I might take it over Audi Q5.
Yeah, so long as you don't want a hybrid, this is a really strong consideration.
Now, pricing is one of the most attractive elements about this Tiguan. So you can see the most recent pricing, but this is going to have some really affordable pricing really for this segment, especially on this fully loaded example. We're sitting a little over $40,000 for all you get here, and there is no optional equipment. Everything is standard that you've seen today. Now, if you're curious as to where this vehicle is manufactured, its final assembly point is in Mexico. And if you're looking to buy one or any new vehicle, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. The reason you do that is because we have a tool on our website that'll connect you with local car dealers in your area to get you the best price. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool for dealership negotiation. If you'd like to take advantage of that, as well as things like our monthly payment tool, you can find a link to that in our video description, as well as a pinned comment down below. But it's also important to talk about resale value and reliability, so let's go ahead and get into that. First up, let's talk about resale value. As an economics graduate myself, we took the time to develop what we think is a good estimate for this Volkswagen Tiguan's potential resale value. We estimate that after 5 years and 60,000 miles, it'll be worth 51.8% of original MSRP, and after 10 years and 120,000 miles, 14.7%. Now, it's worth noting those are right at the industry average for all vehicle brands when it comes to resale value percentages. However, it is significantly lower than most of this vehicle's main competition, such as Toyota, Honda, Subaru, Mazda, and other brands like Hyundai.
Now, we've also done the same for reliability by developing the Combined Reliability Index. This takes into account several studies on reliability from trustworthy sources and combines them in a way that gives you the most holistic picture. With the latest data, Volkswagen is rated as the lowest rated mainstream brand that we have in our sample, and of course that is well below average.
Now, if you'd like to learn more about our resale values, our reliability data, or our methodology, be sure to go to carconfections.com/resale and carconfections.com/reliability. Buying a car is a big decision, so you want to make sure you're making a smart purchase, especially if you're cross-shopping between different vehicle brands. Now, when it comes to your warranty, you have a 4-year, 50,000-mile basic and powertrain warranty. You do also get 2 years and 20,000 miles of complimentary maintenance. And guys, that's going to wrap up our 7-day real-world review of this all-new Volkswagen Tiguan. Hopefully you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, we'd really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button down below. By subscribing, you're going to get more content like this. The manufacturers pay attention, and by you subscribing, you're showing that this type of content is important to you, as well as things like our upcoming night review. So please go ahead and do that if you haven't already. If you're already a part of our family, thank you so much for your continued support. You make this all possible. We'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.